Welcome back, everyone. In this video we're going to look at creating a simple water. Now, creating water without a photo texture can be extremely difficult in Photoshop, but thankfully in most cases we don't really need to create a photoreal water. If we were going to, we would just use water. But what we need to do is give just an idea that it's water. You can have something that really doesn't look photoreal, but if you have a copy of it and it's surrounded by some stone you made, which is in the middle of a grass lawn you made, people will look at it and say, oh, pool. So we're going to do something like that, something that's got some caustics and some perspective to it that we can use to give the idea of water. Alright, so the first thing that I've done is selected a couple of colors. I've got a dark blue right over in here. You can go by the number if you like, which is 024 C98. And then a much lighter blue up in this spectrum with a little less saturation to it. And if you want that number, it's 84 CDF6. But just somewhere in there will do just fine. So the first thing we're going to do is create a straight gradient with our gradient tool. And depending on which way you have these flipped, you may want to start at the top or the bottom, but we want the darker color on the bottom. So we'll just run that straight up. And that's lovely. Why do we want the darker color on the bottom? Because when you look across water, the further away it gets, the more of an angle your view is to it, and the more reflective it becomes. So it's going to look lighter further away. Alright, now we're going to need a new layer. But to do that, I have included a Caustics PSD for you. You can find free caustic generators online, which is where I got this one, and then I just tiled it up till it was 1024 because the free ones won't make very big ones. But this will do, and you're welcome to use this in anything that you do. You can simulate caustics in Photoshop, and I will show you how to do that. You will find that the effect is decent, but not nearly as good as actually using some caustics that were generated. So you can pull that file in. I'm just going to copy this one by hitting Control A and Control C. Going back and hitting Control V to paste that in. Alright. Now, the very first thing that we need to do is make it so we can see our background. So I'm going to screen this because otherwise, if I do something like overlay, it's going to be very dark and very saturated. So we'll screen it. There we go. Not too bad. You know, if you were doing a top-down game, you could probably get away with just this. So if you want to save this out as one copy, feel free to do so as a working file. But we're going to take it a little bit further. I'm going to create another new layer. And I'm going to X out or D out my colors and go back to black and white. I'm going to grab my paint bucket, fill my layer, and I'm going to go to Filter, Render, and render some clouds. Alright, that looks terrible. But that's okay, we'll make it look a little bit better. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go into Filter again. This time we're going to go to our Filter Gallery. And we're going to use, under Sketch, our Chrome setting. Now, I like to take my detail all the way down to 0 and my smoothness all the way up to 10. The detail gets literally way too much detail going, I think. And without the smoothness, we kind of get the same effect. There's way too much detail going on. And I want this kind of waviness, but I want really as little of it as I can get away with. So we'll press OK on that. And we're going to go ahead and set this layer to overlay. And we kind of have a water texture. Now we can take the opacity way down. And that starts to look a whole lot better. Now, this is not a bad place at all to save out this texture for your texture library as a PSD. But then I'll show you what we can do with it. So for now I'm going to bring this all the way back up just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to go back into my filter gallery, or my filter setting, and I'm going to go to Liquify. Let me pull this over here. And we can see the rough size of my texture, and I'm going to be somewhere around 25% of that. I'm never going to work towards the edge because it pulls away. So somewhere near the middle, I'm just going to do a kind of wave. And I'm using my forward warp tool. And I'll wave it this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And the same thing here, and I'm going to try and screw up here a little bit and pull that out. And if that happens to you, you can just pull it back in. And I'm just going to kind of put some wave into this. And I may well be over-exaggerating this a little for the sake of showing it off. But it's art, so it's whatever way you like it. There we go. Now, when we have this all full like this, it really looks extra terrible. But again, if we bring that opacity down, it starts to look better. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go down to Distort, and I'm going to go to Wave. And to do this, you need some very specific settings. I want my number generator down to 1. I want my wavelength at a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 71. My amplitude at a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 6. And my scale on the horizontal at 100, but on the vertical at 71. And I have preview. Hey, this previews automatically, so you can see there's not much change to what I'm doing. That's okay. We're going to click OK. And we get a little bit of wave going. And I'm going to hit that Control F to rerun that again. One more time. And what we're looking for is, you can see here where we're starting to get some actual shapes from that amplitude. And we want to be careful not to get too far into that. So I may actually go back one. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that there. But you see that it breaks up our lines a little bit more, makes it look a little bit better. If we take our opacity down, now we're starting to get a pretty interesting water texture. Certainly if you were using that in a game or something like that, it would be easy to sell. Now, I'm going to go back to my Caustics layer, and the first thing I'm going to do is hit Control T for my transform. I'm going to right click and choose the perspective transform. And grab this corner and just pull it way out here. And we start to get some distortion here, but that's alright. I'll hit enter to enter that in. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing on my wave layer. Control T, right click, perspective, pull this way out. Hit enter. And now we're really getting a pretty good water texture. I might even lower the opacity of this a little. But again, you can play around to taste. A little goes a long way. And there we go, just 3 simple layers, and we have our basic simple water. Alright, now we will take a very quick look at how to create some of your own caustics, but in the end I think you're going to be happier using the image from a caustic generator. So let's take a look at that. Alright, I'm going to create a new image here. And I'm going to turn these off. Get the same colors going that I had. Alright, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did before. Not too shabby. Alright, to make our own caustic, we need to go up to Filter. And we're going to go to our filter gallery, come down to Texture, and choose Stained Glass. And then I'm going to cancel out of that because I have my colors reversed. Let's try that again. Alright, Stained Glass, we want the lighter color for our caustics. Want a pretty good cell size, I'm up around 26, that'll do fine. Border thickness around 7. It's going to depend on what size image you're doing, but at this, 7 or 8 is pretty good. And I want my light intensity at 0. I don't want it pumping extra light into that. So I'll click OK. And it looks like that, which doesn't look like caustics at all. But that's okay. We're going to go back to our filter and our filter gallery again. And this time we're going to go up to Distort. And we're going to use Glass. Now, you can play around with whatever things you like. Tiny lens, get you some weird results. Canvas, it's kind of okay, but not great. I prefer the blocks. We want our smoothness all the way up. Distortion, you can choose to taste. But I like somewhere around 14, 15. Scaling all the way up to 200%. And for an underlayment, that will get you a pretty good caustics effect. It's not as good as this. Oops. Not as good as this. But you can make it work. And you can make it work even a little bit better by duplicating the layer. And then making this multiply. And then doing that transform again, where Control T, come on, Control T, there we go. And then by the time you add the other stuff over it, it'll still look like water. I just wanted you to see that to get you into the idea of attacking some of your filters and other functions in Photoshop just to see what you could get. But definitely in this case, water is a tough one, and I think you're really going to prefer this method. On that note, I'll do another water video that shows something a little more realistic, not so much suited for games, but great for graphics work. And I'll see you in that video.